Welcome to the raw and uncensored Ambitchious Podcast. During our time here together, I will be instilling all of the strength, power, and determination you will need to use the very stones thrown at you to build your ultimate empire. We will redefine the word bitch from the derogatory to the acronym being in total control of herself. So let's adjust our crowns and prepare to live life ambitiously.
Yeah, here I am, the original HBIC, Katie motherfucking Boyd. And on today's installment of the Ambitchious Podcast, I have my good friend, soul sister, and my Feng Shui mistress, because we don't say master, because you are the mistress of Feng Shui, Jini Rayne. And Jini and I have been working together for about 4 or 5 years, and she's also the wife to Kalen, who you've already heard about when he was on the podcast last week. We were talking about the Kabbalarian numbers and the labyrinths and getting in tune with nature. And he talked a lot about how we really have to get in tune with nature and also about our inner environments. And that's where Jini comes in. They are really, truly the dream team. And like I said on last week's podcast, when we had Kalen on, we were talking about how when I first started working with Kalen and Jini, I was just in a weird place in my life. We had just bought a home. Everything kind of felt funky. I was really happy here, but I knew that some things had to change. And then I found this dynamic duo. They came in, they worked their magic, and not only did it help my relationship with my husband, and it made me happier and more joyful to be home in my own environment, but oddly enough, I doubled my income in 1 year. And the only thing that I did differently is work with Jini and Kalen. So Jini is going to be talking all about Feng Shui, really about the basics of Feng Shui. And she's going to be giving you some really just incredible things, easy things that you can do to your home and your environment to really take your life to the next level, because God knows that she has helped me so much. So Jini, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life and being here. I appreciate you.
I am so glad to be here.
It's going to be so fun.
It is.
We always have fun together.
Yes, we do.
So how long have you actually been in the Feng Shui world?
I was given a book about Feng Shui, one of the first ones published in the West in, the modern era in 1990.
Wow.
And I being a practical person, read the book and made a couple of changes in my home to test it out, because I am very results-oriented.
Yes.
And I wanted to see if it worked. And by golly, within 6 months, zip zap, the 2 things that I had adjusted my home for came to pass in my life.
Wow.
And so I started studying more seriously.
You were like, okay, there's something to this.
Yes.
This is not just a bunch of hooey. It's not a bunch of esoteric BS. This is real stuff that you can do.
Right.
Do you remember what it was that you changed in your house?
Oh, well, if you want the whole story.
I do. I love stories.
Okay. I had been married for 24 years and then was divorced and single parenting, and thought that when my youngest, who was between her freshman and sophomore years in high school, by the time she graduated, I wanted to have a partner again.
Okay.
And, you have to kiss a few frogs, and it takes a while usually.
I know all about that.
Figured I'd get the things going. And so I made it an adjustment there, and then I made it an adjustment in an area that has to do with your career or pathway through life, because I was sort of at a standstill in my work life. And within 6 months, everything had broken through in my work life, and I got married to Kalen.
Oh my gosh.
How happened,
crazy.
Yes. I mean, we had known each other for a long time, so we didn't have to go through the whole getting acquainted part of it.
Yes.
So it was really fast.
Interesting.
So then I moved out of that home in with Kalen, and it was a guest house on a farm I owned with my 2 oldest daughters. And the second daughter moved into that home to give her older sister, who had a husband and children, some room. And she got married within 6 months of moving in.
Way.
way. Yes.
And what did you, okay, so what are some of the things that you did? Did you put the couples in your kitchen? What was happening? Did you put two things in the kitchen?
I did. I made my own cure. They're called cures in Feng Shui when you make some change in your environment. So I made my own cure using a bunch of elements that have to do with partnership, marriage. And I will not give you that.
No.
The details of that, because when I told this story to David Kennedy, who's the author of Feng Shui for Dummies,
yes,
he came back to me and said, when people ask you that, you should require 27 red envelopes from them. The red envelopes are how a traditional Feng Shui person is paid.
Yes.
It's one envelope per cure, or maybe 9 envelopes if it's a really good cure.
Yes.
And 27 is just pretty much unheard of. That's for averting bankruptcy or doing something really massive.
Yes.
And apparently my cure was massive because...
You think?
Anyway.
Listen, guys, if you are looking for a man and you want some cures, you're going to have to give Jini 27 red envelopes full of Dinieto. And you're worth every penny, by the way.
Because
you changed my life, you and Kaylin, so much. And we always sing your praises. And every time that we do talk, you just educate me and empower me more. And you know I love that. And I know that my listeners from all over the world love that as well. And I'm really excited for you to give them some real basic stuff, because I think from what I've, experienced, a lot of people don't want to get into Feng Shui because they're like, this is just too, I don't get it. This is overwhelming. What if I do something wrong? And
that is a concern.
Absolutely.
You can enhance an area. Yes, Kaylin has stories.
Yes, he does.
I will, but what I want to give people are just basic concepts that are non-threatening that you can use, just so that you will focus in on the starting steps.
Yes.
And then if you have something major going on in your life or some need, why you can always engage somebody who is more knowledgeable.
Absolutely, which is you. Because you can do virtual stuff. You don't have to live in Maine, because Jini lives in Maine, but you do stuff with people all over the world.
Yes,
That's
we do.
Awesome.
We do.
So I know that we're going to talk about a couple of my favorite basic things today, which is the front door, which is the mouth of the chi energy, right? Correct? Right. Am I saying that correctly?
That is correct. That's where all your opportunities and good things in life come in.
And abundance.
Yes.
Of whatever you're desiring.
Yes. Everything that comes to you comes from the energy coming in the front door.
Yes. And then the second thing we're going to talk about is the hearth, or as you call it, the stove, right?
Right.
And who would have thunk that your stove plays so much get energy into what you're doing in your everyday life. I started cooking on all my burners since last time we talked, by the way.
This is good.
And it's good. I feel I definitely feel like an energy shift in my home and just in my life.
Well, you're making use of all the possibilities for nourishment to come to you if you use all the burners. You just want everything to work properly, and then you want to use it.
I love it. And then the third one is your bed.
Right.
Because the bed is a whole situation. And I know when we first started working together, you were like, what side does Matt sleep on? And I was like, on this side. And you're like, okay. But because I had crystals above my bed,
right.
And we can talk about this after.
Sure.
I'm not going to speak for you because you're the expert, but it cured the wrong doing of the bed position.
Right. The position of your bed is important. And positioning is important in lots of different situations, but the bed's really, really important. One basic Feng Shui thing is that the longer you spend in a particular spot, and the closer in you are to whatever's going on around you, then the more influence it has. And since your bed is a place where you spend a lot of time, even though you are asleep there, but it is the last thing you see at night and the first thing when you get up in the morning, that environment's really, really, really important.
Yes.
So that's a basic concept. You don't really care too much about the guest room. because you're not there.
Right.
So when you're paying attention to things in Feng Shui, you want to pay attention to the places where you spend your time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your bedroom, the office, the family room or den, kitchen,
right,
for sure. So those things are really, really important. And so
I love this.
Focus on that.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start, as Fräulein Maria once said from The Sound of Music.
Yes.
Okay, so the door.
Yes.
Let's talk all about the door, because you don't realize, like, for example, I have a garage off my kitchen, and Matt and I usually leave in our cars from the garage through the kitchen, and we don't use the front door a lot. And you're like, no, you have to go out there every day, and you have to give it some energy, and you have to give it some love. So I do that every day because of you. Mm-hmm. And it's again, changes the energy.
Yes. Well, the front door is where the energy, as we said earlier, comes into you. All your opportunities, all the energy that's coming to nourish you and to help you on in your life and on your way, your whole family. So it's important that that door be used. You want it to be a strong door that presents a good, strong energy. The hardware on the door needs to be firmly affixed, not wobbly. It's like when you open the door, you're shaking hands basically with your house.
Yes.
And you want to encourage the energy to come. So your front door, you have a lovely striped rug down and then a mat to wipe your feet on that says, "Hello, gorgeous." And
I was like, oh God, this has to look good because Ginny's coming over today. I was like, Ginny, how's my front door feng shui? You're like, it's looking really good, girl.
Yes, it is. And she has a wreath on her front door that's colorful, that it invites energy in. You want your front door to be obvious. You don't, if it's hidden behind the garage or some other place, if
right.
You can't see it, it's just harder for the energy to get there. And so you need to make a pathway, maybe with solar lights, or just figure out a way to
distinguish it.
Yes, and bring energy there. You want it to be obvious when you have guests come.
Right.
Do they know where to go?
The worst is when you go to someone's house and you're literally like, where the hell am I going? It's so dark. You're trying to find your way to the front door. It's meandering all the way, all over the place. And there's just like no distinction. And then you're like, oh my God, the door is in the weirdest place.
Yes. Sometimes, and yes. So you want a good, clear pathway. You don't want to be stumbling over the bike or the roller skates or whatever.
God. Tell my husband that. Because he likes to leave his shoes all over. When when he comes home, he just drops his shoes like in any which way. And I'm like, Ginny said that this is going to create stumbling blocks in your life. And if I say Ginny said something, then Matt's like, oh, got to put my shoes away perfectly. And yeah, it's hilarious. This is what I use you as my enforcer. Right? I'm just like, Ginny said, and he listens. But if I said, put your damn shoes away, he'd be like, oh, whatever. But if I say you said, it's a different story.
Well, metaphors, what you're talking about is a good thing to bring up, because the metaphors in our life, the symbols, tell us something about what's going on. People who come in through their garage, and you will, if it's raining, you're not going to walk around to the front door. Yes. You're going to come in your garage.
Mudroom or your side door. Or,
yes, whatever is your usual used to way of getting in. Make sure you don't have the rakes and the shovels and or the bike or whatever stacked up, so you have to trip over things coming in.
Because how many people's garages are like that? You can't even move.
Right.
Like you're banging your car doors off of stuff in there, and it's like, oh my God, what the heck?
You want a clear path. You want to make your life easy, so have the symbolism of an easy way to come into your home.
Yes.
Don't put stumbling blocks in your own path.
Yes, because it will actually manifest in your everyday life.
Yes.
That's so interesting. So I asked you, and I thought this was really great, like, if I do use the garage a lot, how do I go out and give my front door energy? Because you said you should be out there every day, at least, once a day, giving that front door energy.
Right.
And you gave me some really good tips. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Depending, you can walk out your front door to take the dog out.
Yes.
First thing in the morning, last thing at night, or whenever. You can go out the front door to get the paper or the mail, or if you don't need to do those things somehow, just take a broom out and sweep your front doorstep.
I do that a lot.
Just something, some use of it. We counseled a minister about a church many years ago, and most people came in around from the parking lot and stuff.
Through the side.
Yes, and there was a front door, and by golly, having already done his home, he very proudly told me that he went out there every day with a broom and swept the front steps of the church. And
I bet it probably brought some more money into the coffers there.
Right. And more members.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
More enthusiasm, more things going on.
That's right. So I do sweep a lot, and I also planted, I don't know if you saw this, but I planted tulips in those
saw those.
So every day I go out and I water my tulips.
That's a good way to do it. Having a pot of flowers out there, a wind chime if you want to just let the wind,
bring the energy in.
And bring the energy in. Some people have bird feeders out in front.
Yep. It's all about bringing the energy.
Yes.
Bringing the energy to
and
the front
living
door.
energy is really potent. So.
Oh, 100%. I put a little bird feeder out on the side last year, and it just changed the game. And I would look, I would sit on the front steps and I would just watch the birds, and it's so, I don't know. I'm into that. So it was intriguing to me.
Yes. Well, there was a store in Boston a number of years ago, and maybe still is, that had a bubble machine out in front of
my God,
their
yes.
door. Just
how smart.
How fun.
Yes. And that also brings fun energy to the house, right? So if you put a bubble machine in your front yard, you're like, oh, this house is going to be bubbly and lively and fun.
Yes.
That's
once again, symbolism.
Yes. Okay. So if you have a front door, maybe you live in an apartment, or you live in a walk-up or a triple decker, and people are like, oh, who gives a shit about my front door? It's not even my front door. That's not true.
Well, you want, to the extent that you have the authority to do something to the door, to the building, cool. But be sure the door to your part of the building is enhanced in some way, whatever they will allow you to do.
Right. So a wreath.
Yes, exactly. A wreath.
A nice little mat.
A mat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a good way to wipe your feet before you come in and leave your worries on the doorstep, as the song says.
Absolutely. 100%. What about colors of doors? Does that make a difference?
It should be something that draws attention to that door. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, red or yellow or some striking color. It can be just something that stands out. So you don't want the door to be the same color as the siding, basically.
Understood. But they do say that red is the color of wealth, correct? In Feng Shui?
It is often thought that way. Red is also thought to repel negativity.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Hence the red envelopes when you pay the Feng Shui person, or in Chinese culture, you give New Year's gifts and birthday gifts and baby gift, red envelopes.
Wow, I never knew that.
And so, hence why the Feng Shui masters traditionally paid in a red envelope is to ward the energy off. Since the Feng Shui person has given you cures to enhance your life and maybe ward off bad energy, we don't want the negativity to come back to the master.
I never thought about this.
Hence the red envelope as protection.
That's so interesting. How cool. I love this.
Part of the tradition.
Very, very cool. And I know that when we started working together, and you did my whole Feng Shui analysis, and you and Kaylin worked together, when you came to the house and we were doing the cures, some of the stuff was like, okay, Katie, your money corner of your house is your freaking master bathroom.
Right.
And what are in the bathrooms?
Drains.
And what do drains do?
They drain energy as well as water.
So if I have drains in my money corner, and we're not going to get too crazy into this stuff today because this is like a whole other situation.
Yes, we're not going into all the energy map, the mandala that has to do with, it's called the Bagua.
Yes.
That has to do with what energies are located where in your home.
But my energy of my wealth and abundance was in the freaking master bathroom, and you're like, girl, just go ahead. And you're going to put a red or purple flowers on top of your toilet. And you're going to go around. You're going to put all your little red, ribbons around all of the drains and the big drain in the house. And I swear on my grandmother's soul, we doubled our income that year without even doing anything different other than that.
Well, when you do a cure, you also set an intention for what the cure is supposed to be. And we'll talk about how you do that in a minute. But the red, as I say, is protective.
Yes.
So when you put it around a drain, and if you have a main drain in your basement, you can just do that and take care of the whole house. But your intention is that it is a filter so that all the good stuff stays in and you just allow to escape or to move away anything that you no longer need.
Yes.
So
interesting. Because a lot of people, they can make money, they can create money and bring money in, but they can't keep it.
Right.
Because it's just getting siphoned out of their home.
Right.
And that's what was happening to me. I was like making all this money and I'm like, where the hell is it all going at the end of the month? And Matt's like, well, have you looked at the Amazon?
Yeah.
The guy comes 3 times a day. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. And then it just shifted my energy and everything has been so different, especially, in every way, shape, and form, but I really love it. And I know a lot of the women out there in Ambitchious land that listen to this podcast, they're entrepreneurs, right? They love money.
They're go-getters.
That's right.
And they want to keep it.
Damn right. Damn frickin' Skippy.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want to talk about the door? Do you feel like good about that? And you want to move on to the...
Let's go ahead.
Okay. So
there's always more. But,
there's so much. This could be a lifelong lesson, right? Feng Shui is this never-ending thing.
It is. I keep learning. It's fun.
It really is fun. So the second place that we're going to talk about is the kitchen and the hearth.
Right. The stove is the hearth of your home. That's where you cook your meals. That's... and nourish your family. So it is a manifestation of your ability to provide and of health, too. So it has to do with wealth and health, both.
Interesting.
And so as we were talking earlier, Katie is now using all the burners of her stove, not necessarily all at the same time, but regularly, so that she's using all of the possibilities she has for bringing nourishment to her household.
Because you tend to cook on your favorite burner.
Oh, goodness,
or burners.
Yes.
Maybe there's 2 out of the 5 or whatever,
right,
and I always would just cook on those all the time.
Right. Well, and when we were talking about this on the
Ambitchious Academy.
The Academy, yes, I realized that I have the 5th burner in the middle that has for the griddle, and I wasn't using that. Shame on me. So
you're like, I got to use that middle burner.
Yes, I was. So you realize that all of us have improvements that we can make.
So when I was growing up, and you might have not watched the show, but I was a Sex and the City girl because that was like totally my generation, right?
Sure.
And I remember Carrie Bradshaw never cooked in her kitchen. And Carrie Bradshaw never ate at home.
Right.
And it was like a running joke where she would have sweaters in her oven.
Right.
Because she just ran out of space with her clothes. So in my mind growing up, I'm like, oh my God, I want to be like Carrie Bradshaw and like never eat, never cook, and put sweaters in my oven. I think my whole generation of women kind of wanted to be that. And knowing what I know now through you, it's like, whoa, no wonder why I was dating every dingaling known to man and I was never finding the one, because I was probably not using any of my possibilities of my hearth.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Could that be a problem?
It is a problem if you don't use it. It's not that you have to be...
Julia Child's cooking every day.
Oh, no. And, you don't have to be just a busy little homemaker all the time. But you do need to use what you have so that it can be... in circulation, basically.
Can you just pontificate about that a little bit? Because I think that's so interesting because I don't like clutter. Mm-hmm. I've never liked clutter in my entire life. It actually gives me super anxiety. And I thought it was always this way to control my environment because I grew up kind of in a tumultuous household and it was just my safe place. It was if everything has a spot and I know where everything is, I feel safe. And it's kind of carried over into my adult life, right? But when you think about clutter in the home, because I know you don't like clutter either, so many women, they just won't take the time to go, you know what? I'm going to just tackle one drawer at a time. and I'm just going to tackle one room at a time. And I'm just really going to declutter my life, because do you not feel that clutter can create this chain reaction of all these other issues in your life? And from a feng shui standpoint.
Oh, goodness, yes. If you want new things to come into your life, there has to be room for them.
Amen.
And so when I'm working with people who are single and don't wish to be, fine to be single, but if you don't wish to be, if you want a partner, then you need room for them to come into your life.
Interesting.
So you can't have books piled on the other side of the bed. You can't.
Yes.
You can't have everything so cluttered up that there's not physical room for someone else in your life.
Wow. I was listening to Florence Scovel Shinn. I don't know if you know who Florence Scovel Shinn is, but she was like this modern mystic from like the early 1900s. And she always was, and this just totally blew my mind because you just said it. I was like, what the hell is this chick talking about? But now I understand. She would have women who wanted a mate that couldn't, find the man if their life depended on it. They would set a table place for them every night. So they would actually like take a plate and take a knife and a fork, and they would like pretend almost as if this person was coming over for dinner. Right. And it's almost that same situation where it's like, if you just have a bunch of unfolded clothes on your bed and you just literally scooch the pile of shit over on your mate's side of the bed, you're probably not going to be finding anybody to sleep on that side of the bed anytime soon.
No. There's a story in that one of the authors I read who does clutter clearing. She tells about deciding she wanted to mate, and so she literally cleared out half of her drawers and half of her closet space and got ready. And she happened to spend half of her year in England. She was British, and half in Bali. And she did not meet anybody when she during her British half of her year. So she went to Bali and met her mate there.
Wow.
And when they came back to Britain, when she was, it was time for her to go back and he accompanied her, he took it as a matter of course that there would be room for him.
Wow.
And it was ready and waiting.
Oh, I love this. So do you all listen, you bitches, listen to Jini. If you're looking for your person and you are like, like she said, you have all the self-help books on that side of the bed, you might want to clean out that side and then maybe make some room for this person to come in.
Right. Twos are important, and that's what you were talking about.
Yes, before when I was making a joke.
Well, but in setting the place for the person. Emphasizing twos in your life will also help you to find your partner.
Yes. So can you give like just some ideas of like putting two things together to make this happen?
Even I've gone to homes where none of the artwork expressed that two-ness. There's always every piece of art on the wall was of a single solitary
lady on the beach.
Yes, or the lone wolf howling at the moon kind of thing. It was really striking.
You go into someone's house and you're like, hello, but they don't see it.
No, well, you never see your own, which is why
true.
It's why that's why I had that aha moment about the burner in the middle when we were talking about it, because you tend to get used to your own stuff, and ignore what you should know.
So maybe two things in like a room, like two vases or two little statues together, or
yes, two candlesticks on the dining room table.
Not just one.
Not just one nice pillar candle. You want two of them. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is. Just think in twos if that's what you're going for.
I love that. It's such simple stuff. This is not brain surgery, everybody. This is simple.
And for families, if you're trying to have a child, then think in threes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And that's it. Again, simplicity. And this just came to me. Remember when you came one time to the house and I was like, oh, Karina just moved home because of COVID. And I want to kill her because, she had lived on her own for so many years.
Sure.
And if if you've been to my house, but if you haven't, we have our bedroom on the main floor, and then all of our guest bedrooms and Karina's bedroom is on the second floor above us.
Right.
And you said, just go up there and put something of yours up there, so it brings the energy of the dominating energy of the home. Because if someone's above you physically,
right,
their energy is actually dominating your energy.
Right. This is has to do with commanding position, which is a big concept in Feng Shui. So we might as well just go there.
I love it.
It's when I was growing up, there were a lot of Westerns on TV and stuff. I'm older than she is.
I do like Westerns, though. My dad used to make me watch them. John Wayne, the whole 9 yards. Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. But there's the old Western saloon logic was keep your back to the wall and your eye on the door.
Yes.
It's
you know that Matt still sits at a restaurant like that? Like he will not sit in his back against the door.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
He's
Smart
like,
man.
He goes, I can't do this. It feels so uncomfortable. And I always thought it was crazy, but now you're
right.
Now you're telling me differently.
Right. Well, commanding position is where you are in the spot in a room or in a building that it is has the best visibility, and you have to go through the most hurdles to get to you. The big muckety muck, the CEO has the corner office
yes.
on the highest floor usually.
That's right.
Or
if you're living in the penthouse.
Yes.
That's the commanding position energy.
So when you were talking about your guest rooms, and a lot of homes are built with a master suite on the first floor, and the kids are upstairs, and guess who's in charge of that house?
That bitch was ruling the roost when she came home. I was like, Ginny, please help me. I'm going to freak out. And she's like, here's how you're going to do this.
Yes.
And it changed the energy instantly within a day.
Right. But commanding position is useful in lots of different situations. Where you sit at a meeting table, if your back is to the wall and you have the widest view of the room and the door, you are in a very advantageous position. We had a lawyer that we consulted with that would, after we talked to him, he could set up his own conference room the way he wanted it, but he started going early to conferences at other lawyers' offices, and
to get the best seat in the house.
Yes, he would go and say, "Oh, I'm here a little early. I'll just go on in."
Yeah,
and he'd take the seat he wanted, and he would tend to have something to give to each person with their name on it, handouts or whatever. So he would designate where people were going to sit, and the strongest person, the one you were most concerned about their reaction or their dueling with them or whatever, he put in the worst position. I guess you might as well just say it. He, back to the door or whatever. And people would come in and go, oh, okay. And they would just settle in.
Acquiesce to whatever.
Yes, they would. So, I spent a lot of time in the not-for-profit world and working with boards. And so you set it up so your problematic board people, and there are in the not-for-profit world.
Yes.
Set up your meetings, people.
Interesting.
And it works in the home, in the dining room, with dynamics with the family.
Oh, like when people are going to beat the shit out of each other at Thanksgiving? That's my norm.
I was thinking more about family dynamics, and mom usually having her back to the kitchen door and getting up to run for everything. And,
oh my God, it's
and
so true.
Putting the kids in the
better seats.
The better seats, yes.
Oh.
So if you're having issues in your family, you can rearrange your dining room, your, whatever table.
Where everyone sits.
Where everyone sits. And some families just spend a week in one position and then shift.
Yes.
So it equalizes things, and everybody sees things from everybody else's vantage point.
I, when this was going on with Karina, I actually put one of my Buddhas upstairs in another room, which is still there, by the way. I think that's where you're sleeping tonight.
Oh, okay.
In that room. And and she didn't know I put it there. And I wasn't like, hey, I'm putting this there because you're being a little asshole. And it just, the next day, it was like she was a different person and I was a different person and the energy was different. And I was like, this shit really works.
Yes, it does.
It really, really works. So, okay, let's talk a little bit more about the hearth and then we'll move on to the bed.
Right.
So are there any other kind of like 2 cents you want to talk about, like the stove?
Keep it clean.
Yes, bitches. Don't be dirty pigs. Clean your stoves. That's the worst. I clean my stove every day. And we were talking about this in Ambitchious Academy where I'm like,
Right.
I'm really proud of myself. Every day I get up and I clean my stove. And it's just an old habit that I've always done my whole life. It just, part of my rituals, I like to just make the house clean every day. Even if it is clean, I just like to make it really good.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the things that I do is I clean my stove every day because I just think a greasy, dirty stove is the most disgusting thing in the world.
Well, after dinner when you're doing your cleanup, take that soapy sponge or whatever it is you're using and wipe things down. It's simple.
Yep.
But you want everything to be in good working order.
Because then your life will be in good working order.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the bed because I think the bed is a very interesting place because, well, we were talking about this on our last Ambitchious Academy call where you were talking about like the skylights over your bed and how you and Kaylin used to love to look out the skylights and it was so romantic and beautiful. And then you were like, oh shit.
Yes.
This is probably not the best thing for us. And bed position where, and I could be talking out of my ass right now, so tell me if I am, but like a lot of people say don't have a bed with a window right over your head because the energy goes out the window. Is that true?
Well, the skylight is the energy escapes, and the window, it's always better to have a solid wall behind you.
Yes.
So the window is not solid. I mean, if that's what you have and that's where your bed has to go, why then, you put some curtains over it. Or,
we put louvers like these.
Yes, louvers are fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. You make it, you make it solid.
Yes.
In one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
It's always best, the commanding position in the room. You want to be able to see the door. If at all possible, position your bed so that you can see the door, but it is not directly across from the door.
So my door, I have double doors in my master, and the door on the side of my bed, it's not a right across, but guess whose it is across from? Matthew Babine.
And
what is that all about? Let's just tell the people what it is.
Well,
in Feng Shui, it's kind of it's a little dark, it's a little morose, but
and you look at hospitals and they have things arranged so that the nurses or whoever can peek in the door and if your feet are going out the door, that's how the Chinese carry out the dead. I suppose everybody does.
Right.
And
so it's like a death position.
Yes.
Energetically.
Energetically, you're just ready to go.
I love it.
And
I don't think that Matt would say that, but I mean, his feet are in that position, so we had to fix it.
Yes. And as Katie said, she has some crystals up there and those multifaceted leaded glass, spherical crystals diffuse energy just as they give you rainbows if you put them in the light.
Yes.
They diffuse the light spectrum. And so that will circulate the energy and not have it.
Yeah, Matt trying to shuffle off his mortal coil too quick.
Really.
So that was the quote-unquote cure.
Yes. Was
to have the crystals. And a lot of times, especially in Ambitchious Academy, you were talking to the girls about this a lot, where you said, okay, if something is messy Feng Shui-wise in your house, get a Feng Shui crystal and just hang it, and that will rotate the energy in the way that it's supposed to.
It often does. It's used, crystals are used a lot. So are mirrors. But
I didn't know that mirrors were used a lot in Feng Shui.
They are called the aspirin of Feng Shui.
Oh, wow.
But they can be tricky because they can bring energy or they can reflect it away. And so you have to know what you're doing with mirrors. So that's not something I'm going to talk about today.
That's too much. But
yes.
But, people just slap mirrors up all over thinking that, it looks pretty there. And it's like you could be doing something that maybe energetically is not in alignment with what you desire.
You might be. Probably not. But if you're using it as a cure, you need to be very specific and careful about how you do that.
A lot of the girls, because we live in the Northeast, and a lot of women live in split level homes.
Right.
And when you walk in the front door, the stairs go zoop right up the stairs. And a cure for that is put a Feng Shui crystal in there, because what happens when the door goes right up the stairs? What is the
across from you're wanting energy to come in, and the chi of the home, if the stairs are right across from the door,
yes,
it's like a waterfall of chi coming down the stairs.
Right.
So you have this onslaught that's pushing against what's trying to come in. And so if you put up the crystal or a wind chime, or if you have a light fixture that has crystals on it, you can use that.
Right.
It's often
like a chandelier with crystals is a really great little cure for that.
Yes, it's lovely.
Interesting.
And that will circulate the energy so that your opportunities and good energy can come in.
The Feng Shui in my house, you had mentioned before when we were first doing work together, where is you walk in my front door, and if you look directly across my home, there's a window. But I was a smarty pants, and I put a plant in front of it.
Exactly.
Not just intuitively like, oh, that looks really good there. And you're like, no, that's actually what you want to do, so the energy doesn't go out the back of the house.
You want energy when it comes in to circulate in all these modern houses. And if you watch the shows on of people searching for houses,
yes,
and they want it all open, and they want to be able to see all the way through.
And they want windows from the floor to the ceiling.
Right. Well, you want enough light, but windows in Feng Shui leak energy, and being able to see right across. If chi comes in and can see all the way out the back, then it's just going to go. It's going to go out the back, and you want it to circulate through the house. So that's where your crystals come in, or plants will circulate energy. If you have a lot of windows, then you should have some plants in them, and that will circulate the energy, keep it inside your house, and keep it moving.
It's awesome. That is awesome. Anything else you want to touch upon the bed with?
The bed, if you can't situate it where you can see the door from the bed when you're resting, and obviously I know that most of you feel very secure in your homes. It's not that you're worried about something some disaster occurring to you, but there is a part of your brain that doesn't turn off fully if you can't see what's coming. It's part of our evolution.
Exactly.
It's part of our DNA.
Wow.
We're always watchful. We have all those idioms and metaphors, stabbed in the back.
Yes.
So if your desk is situated so you can't see who's coming, you need a rear view mirror on your computer if you have to turn around and your back is to the door. Same thing in your bedroom, something reflective, whether it's a mirror or something else, so that when you're laying in bed, you can see the door. And it won't be right across from your bed or the door. You're going to have to figure out the angle just to be able to get the view.
Same thing with when I went to college and we were living in those little shitty dorm rooms. Your bed is pushed up right against the wall.
Right.
And you literally roll over and it's like a cell block in front of your face. That's probably not good Feng Shui.
Right. Well, and bunk beds kind of
bunk beds.
Damp down chi. Oh,
Really?
There's a whole thing. We're going to do a thing on beds.
I know.
And I will go into way more detail.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So all these little things where it's like, I moved to this house and it just doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Hire Jini, because she will come in. She will take your whole home. She will tell you everything to do, everything to move, where things should be. I mean, you blew my mind with just the simplest little things. And it made such a huge difference in, like I said before, my relationships and my money. And just, I loved coming home. Not that I didn't love my home before, but I loved it even more after we did all the stuff.
I understand. And I also, I do tell you what to do, but I like to work cooperatively.
Yes.
I used to be a teacher. And so
yes,
I want to empower people.
Yes. She never tells me like, you have to do this or else. You're just more like, it's suggestions.
Right. It's not paint that wall red. It's
Yes.
that it's that this is what's happening, and so we need to do this, or maybe this, or, this is what we want to have happen, and then we work it out.
I love it.
So
that's awesome. Jini, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, doing this podcast. I know that all the ladies are going to absolutely love it. And if you scroll down to the show notes, we're going to have all of Jini's information. So if you're interested in working with Jini, as I've done and my husband have done in the past and continue to do so, you can just reach out to her, schedule a time, and she will get your Feng Shui on point. And in the meantime, don't forget to stay ambitious.